Okay, people. So I am joined today by Sam Pezzullo, who is writer, director, also starred in the premiere. Sam, thank you for your time, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Kevin. Thank you so much, not only for, inviting me here today, but also for, the video that you shared already and such a thoughtful uh, review and analysis of the film. It's been really exciting for me to see people react to it, people who don't know me personally and people who are not familiar with the area. Um, I'm very, very happy to see that it's resonating.
I mean, when you first thought about this, like, what did you like? How did you think people would kind of receive, a film about a documentary about a musical?
I think the blessing in disguise was that we didn't think too much about any of it. We really um, we weren't like that focused on people understanding it or enjoying it. We felt we believed in at least this character. I think that like there are so many elements to the film, whether the Scream element or the Hamptons element. But ultimately, like the through line is that it's a kind of character study, and it's a character who is delusional and narcissistic and absurd and outrageous. So we felt that if we grounded every single scene and every moment in that, then the material would translate and kind of transcend, you know, anything.
Mm.
Is there something inherently like relatable about just this outrageous personality that you're watching unravel?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, we've seen a few different kind of mockumentaries and that kind of thing. So, how did this one come to be? And what did you think kind of made it different from things that we've seen in the past?
Well, it came to be because my co-director and co-writer and I were tossing around ideas in 2021 to promote Scream 5, which was coming out that winter.
Mm.
So we came up with what we thought would be a funny idea to tell the story of like an eccentric theater producer who tries to make a musical version of Scream. And we wanted to just make like a 2-3 minute YouTube video as a proof of concept. And so we just relied on, the resources we had at our disposal, myself included. I had taken this improv class. I had some background in musical theater, and I've always been kind of this kind of eccentric, wannabe comedian, I guess you could say. My sense
Mm.
of humor is like my greatest attribute. So I felt that I had the ability at least to like portray this character and kind of deliver the comedic material. And he had all of the equipment, but we didn't have a ton of resources like production wise, so we knew we had to simplify the format and make it look like a documentary, so that we could shoot it handheld on one or two cameras, and it
Yeah.
didn't have to have like this tremendous production value. And we didn't have many actors in the community, so we decided to um, kind of craft the entire story around the real people and the real places in Sag Harbor. So that's really how it all came together. And we didn't have time or the wherewithal to write a script, so we just kind of crafted this narrative structure and decided to improvise the whole thing, because that also, I think, lent itself to this mockumentary format, the feeling of spontaneity and
Mm.
realism. So that's how the project itself came together, and we just kind of remained true to that, from start to finish. And I think what we felt made it special was, I think there is a this small.
Oh, ah, Wi-Fi. Hopefully, we will get Sam back shortly. always an issue where doing these things, but yeah, I don't know. They tend to sort themselves out, you know. It's always fascinating though, isn't it? People hearing about how these things do come together and all of
I think we're
that.
back. Yeah.
Yes, splendid.
Okay. So as I was saying, I think we felt what made it special and unique was um, we were kind of telling a story about the Hamptons, but a story that has never been told. I think the Hamptons has a reputation and a perception globally for being this like playground of the rich and famous from Manhattan. And while it is, there is also, a year-round community of artists and fishermen and trades workers and a lot of real people who live here year round. So we wanted to feature those people in those places, and we also felt that me being like unknown as an actor made it unique because it was the first time people would see who I am, and also just the format itself, the film within the film, which is not necessarily like a groundbreaking format, but the musical element. I think we just felt that it was a story that had never been told, obviously, because we kind of established this universe of characters for the very first time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that thing about the Hamptons because you always heard about the Hamptons, as you said. It just seemed like it was this rich person playground, right? And it's interesting because I think you would kind of see Vegas as a similar thing, right? This party place, but it wasn't until the UFC and hearing fighters talk about Vegas and everything that you realize that there's more to Vegas than just casinos. So sometimes you need that extra thing to kind of pull that curtain back and let you see what something is, the other elements of a place, you know. Oh, we can't hear you, Sam.
That's
Oh,
weird. Oh,
yes.
oh, I see. My phone is the microphone.
Ah.
Weird. Anyway, as I was saying, I think we could have told this story anywhere, to be honest. Any small town USA with a local theater and some local restaurants and shops, we could have told the exact same story. However, there's something about the Hamptons element that makes it a bit more appealing and enticing because people know the Hamptons. There's this reputation, which we are kind of debunking to some degree. And then there are also some inside jokes that make it even more enjoyable for people who are familiar with this area.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and as I said, it works with someone like yourself because if it had been a name, right, and a known actor in this, it's less believable. You know what I mean? You'd be like, I mean, surely I feel they could have pulled together a mute. They'd have called their friends up and they could have come,
Right.
and they'd know about copyrights and they'd know about. So it works better having someone like yourself be that lead.
Sure, because people have been left wondering if this was real or fake, which was, what we intended. So, had it been someone who was, a known actor or someone more notable, then that whole element would have been eliminated. So I think that just added to the concept
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
blurring the lines between what's real and fake, because I am playing me and the coffee shop owner Shane is really Shane. If you come to Sag Harbor, let's say you become a fan of this film and you're not from this area, if you were to come to Sag Harbor and take a stroll down Main Street, you'd probably bump into a dozen of the characters that you see in the film, and you'd see them in the exact same setting that they are depicted in the film, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, with that, right, with bringing in non-actors into the piece, how, like, did it work every time? Because, there's plenty of times where people go, oh, I can do this thing, but then cannot, right? Who you think, oh, that person would be great in front of the camera, but then they just freeze and can't get their lines across, or they can't improv, right? So how was crafting it in that way, getting all of those kind of components to work?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we didn't have a script, nor did
Mm,
we like provide lines for the other actors. And frankly, we didn't really prepare the other actors at all. It was really, the less they knew about what we were doing, the better. So you could ask many of the actors who were in those scenes with me if they had any clue in the moment what we were really doing. We didn't really tell them like what the overall plot was. We didn't like really provide any specifics about their character. We just said, this is what we want to achieve in this moment. This is kind of your character and your motivation. And I'm going to say my lines, and we want you to react naturally and spontaneously. So we really like took that approach to maintain that realism and also prevent a situation where anyone felt like they were acting or overacting. We also just like wanted people to be kind of confused, because we felt that that was actually like a nice like way to highlight my character's like delusion and absurdity, because the people that he's interacting with, they're just like, there's such a disconnect. They're just not on the same like wavelength at all. Whether
yeah.
it's like the woman at the dog groomer who he's talking to, and he's like going on and on about the musical, and she's just looking at him like, what? Or Mona, who like really has no idea throughout the entire film like what purpose she's serving. Like that was all real to some degree, because we didn't prep these other performers. We just showed up and started rolling and said, just like go with the flow. And so within that, we got those real moments. And then we also tried it different ways, where we did script lines and ask them to deliver lines. Most of that didn't make the cut, but we like kind of, we took a two-pronged approach. And then what you see in the film is a combination of like some of the lines that they delivered, but then also some of those natural reaction cutaways and confused looks.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the most part, it all worked. Like, did any of it not work with the
Oh yeah,
image?
a lot of it didn't work, but we just didn't include any of
Yeah.
that in the film. So we were very like selective in editing, which made it actually very difficult, because we would have to try and like cherry pick the moments that worked, or the responses that felt the most real and natural. And sometimes those didn't, that whether there was a continuity error in the conversation, or whether it didn't necessarily support the storyline. Like there were definitely challenges that came along with that, but ultimately we think that we achieved what we needed to.
Did you have to pick anything back up?
Some of the scenes we reshot, um, just because we felt like once we like kind of put it into the context of the whole film, there were elements that were missing that we needed, whether it was like something I didn't say in scene A that allows for a connection to scene B. So we would go back and we would reshoot, and I would make sure to say specific lines so that it was like more cohesive. We did that on like a handful of occasions where we shot one scene, and then we went back and reshot it and added something or subtracted something so that it made more sense when paired with the other scenes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a fun film. right? You're definitely watching this and seeing everything unravel. But I think the fun is that I think for the most part, probably everyone has worked with someone like Sam, right? You've come across that person that has got big aspirations, but can't necessarily back up any of the checks
Right.
that he's writing.
Yeah,
That's
no, I think
that's
he's
what makes
like
it fun.
he's an archetype certainly of like that um creative person who is, fueled by their ego and their desire for, success or recognition. And because of that is just like so delusional and thinks that like they can achieve anything, but yet sadly they don't have whether the resources or the talent or the experience to really like make it happen.
Yeah, well, I think it's you see like it starts off with Sam saying he wants to make this musical, and then you realize as you're going through that essentially he just wants to shine, right? It's
Exactly.
more about him. And so there's that scene when you're talking to the editor and you're like, man, I loved your reel. I didn't care about donkeys. I want now I do. I want people to care about me. And it's just ah
That's
yeah.
actually one of my favorite lines. I love that line. Um, because I think it really crystallizes like who the character is and
Yeah.
what he's about. He's just so self-centered and he just doesn't care about anything aside from just like looking good and people thinking that he is like this successful, accomplished person. And I think what's so exciting is that, in the ideas we have for the sequel, there are so many places you can take, or whether it's a sequel or a series, really would be like the dream case scenario, like an episodic. There's so many
Mhm.
places you can take that character and so many worlds you could put him in and apply him to the different industries where he's still just always fueled by his own ego.
Yeah, I mean, he does feel a little Joe Exotic
Hmm.
in a way.
Definitely. Yeah. And I'm sure like if he were like, down in South Florida, he would find a way to like get involved in the big cat, you know, racket in some way. Anything to make a buck or to, shine.
Yeah, yeah. So you're thinking about a potential sequel to it, like,
Yes, I mean, without spoiling the first one, I think that the ending is sort of a cliffhanger and like open-ended, and there's a lot of story left to explore. So we would love to continue to really build upon this universe too. It was very much like a practice in like world building. And
mm,
that's why we introduced so many different faces and places in the film so that in future versions we can we can reincorporate them. There could be a whole storyline about my friend Jade, the tailor, who's also like my spiritual advisor and her life, or, you know, Kristen or Mona. I mean, there's so many characters that can be like developed.
yeah. I mean, when you think about all of that, like in your head, are we thinking kind of limited series, like a full, 5 season show, or just, short films? Like, in what kind of format would you wish to kind of really flesh all of this out?
I would say probably like a multi-season show. Like, I think that there's enough material there. And because the format is simplistic in that, like, it's all about the character and these interactions that he's having and these like cringeworthy moments. So, we could like just plop this character into so many different scenarios and it could result in just some really fun, entertaining, silly material. And then if you give that character like a challenge or some motivation that, like, you know, can carry them through one season, it would all connect. And you can do that, I think, for multiple seasons. There's certainly enough like mileage out of the character alone to do that. I think so. I mean, I also could see it as just like a trilogy, you know, like there are two more films at least that I have in my head, like where it's a continuation of the first film.
Right, right.
And that scenario and those challenges that were presented in the first film.
Well, as you said, the end is kind of open-ended. It
Mhm.
is, you know, because I think the fun thing is you can see either way, like the possibility of what happened. Like you could definitely see it, but then you can understand because after, because we had those scenes of him not wanting to move to
Quag.
Quag, that's it. So
Yeah.
you could so you can fully understand his ego of not wanting to say where
Exactly.
he was. But then again, that could still be a, so it's, yeah, it's interesting. There's definitely things that could be done, you know what I mean, to kind of play with how we continue this story, which is always, I think, the fun thing with, you know, potential sequels and fleshing out
Right.
a universe, as it were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
although I think that just like in order to keep it fresh and exciting, I think a series would be more fun because we could really acknowledge what happens in the first film as like the foundation, but then really just like take the characters anywhere. And
Mm.
yeah.
Yes, I think that would be very interesting, definitely. Um, when you were doing this, right? So you had all of this improv element. How much of your character was fleshed out? Like, did you know every single beat, like how it was gonna, you know, go, and all of that? Was all of that scripted?
No, most of it was not scripted. I went into each like scene at least with like an idea of what I needed to say and do and communicate as the character to like justify what happened before or what would happen after. Like, you know, what are the story beats and the things I need to say to get us from point A to point B, but didn't really think too much about how I would deliver those lines. I allowed like the delivery to be spontaneous and in the moment based on what the other actors were doing.
Mm.
And that's what also allowed for some of like the like nonverbal acting and the facial expressions and the movements, which I think are a big part of the comedy and the characters like little quirks. But there were certainly lines that I knew I wanted to say. Um,
Okay, right, right. Like when you're thinking about this, you know, the character is pretty absurd, right? He does ridiculous things, ridiculous notions, right? He wants to be a star. But when doing that, right, and creating and, you know, thinking of all of these different scenarios you're trying to put this character into, how were you trying to balance that so it didn't seem too over the top, right? So you know what I mean? Because there's believing in, oh yeah, I can see a character doing this, and then getting to a point where you're like, I mean, that makes no sense, right? I can't believe this. I can't buy this scenario.
well, I know you're getting at like my characters being aware of what cell phone tower pings are, but not the copyright. I that was a
Well, no, that was the
sticking
only
point for
thing.
you. I remember.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I thought. But I thought, for the most part, it was well balanced. I thought that you did get it, so you can buy everything this character's doing, all like the little fit, like, you know, booting out his friend, bringing someone else in, and then going back to the friend. Like, you buy all of those things, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think that's a tightrope, balancing all of that kind of stuff, getting it right. There is a skill to that. So that's what I was, you know what I mean? Like the cell phone thing is just a little thing that I thought, but the rest of it, I thought that was really well done. You know,
Thank you. Yeah, no,
how
I think we made those decisions based on like every decision that the character makes is motivated by, you know, what's in it for him, it seems. And so I think that you can assume that the character is pretty intelligent and like not quite as oblivious as he might appear to be. He's
yeah,
just like blinded sometimes by like his quest for fame and recognition, but when something serves him and his agenda, like he's aware of it and will use it to his advantage. But if something is an obstacle or would present a challenge for him, he just like ignores it and doesn't even like give it a second thought because it doesn't serve his agenda. So for example, the copyright, like while he might in the back of his head be aware of it, it's like overshadowed by his desire to make the musical, and that like trumps any concern that he might have about a lawsuit. Like his quest for, you know, fame or his desire to make this musical is stronger than his fear of being sued, so he doesn't think about it. But then when he's being arrested, like he's going to like grasp at any straw that, you know, he can to try and save himself, and
yeah,
therefore like the cell phone tower pings because he is still unable to in that moment like admit that he was in Quag looking for an apartment because he's so ashamed and embarrassed that he would have to consider moving to Quag, you know, which is really like an inside joke for people in the Hamptons. But in that moment, you know, again, he's like he's trying to protect and preserve his reputation and his image, but also, you know, trying to save himself.
yeah, yeah.
But I think I think you have to like kind of like suspend disbelief a little bit and realize that the character is just in his own world. Like he's just in such a bubble, and he's like really blinded by like reality, and like he's so delusional that he thinks that like Queen Elizabeth's death like would really impact like the press that he's getting in any way. Like that's how self-absorbed he is. I think that moment specifically just like really is an indication of how lost this person is. So when you're that delusional, I think like you can justify any action or behavior because you know that this person is just not really like logically like thinking. They're only thinking about themselves.
Well, yeah. I mean, like towards the end when he's like, "Oh, can we hold on? I just need to go
Right.
out and get to the."
He really doesn't understand the severity that like you're being interrogated by the police. Like, no, you don't like you can't just like pause that moment.
Yeah, it is fun because, as you said, like he's not dumb, right? And it's like when you look at David Brent and Michael Scott as characters, they're not stupid people. You know what I mean? And that I think that's the strength because you see them doing these crazy things and make outlandish statements and gestures. But then you see them do the sweet things and the nice things and the real thoughtful things. And I think that is it. To get into those places, you have to have some, you know what I mean, thought. You have to have, you know, some sensibility to be able to do certain things. So I think you understand that Sam isn't stupid. It is just that, and I think when speaking to the editor, you do see, right? He just wants to, he's so thirsty to be the star
Right.
and have all those lights on him that everything else can become a casualty of war.
Yeah. And also the fact that he would be surprised that these people had such unflattering things to say about him, like, really just goes to show how delusional he is, and how like checked out he is, like just not living like in reality at all. He's not grounded in reality. He's like just got his head in the clouds.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, when you were, putting all of this together, what were the kind of things that you enjoyed, right? Like other kind of thing, stuff like The Office kind of stuff that you enjoyed and you are hoping to in some way emulate? Were there kind of those examples that you had?
Yes, I think the biggest example would be a show that was on HBO called The Comeback with Lisa Kudrow.
Right. Yeah.
There have been 2 seasons, and they're actually now filming a 3rd season, which is very exciting. So, and the seasons have been like released 10 years apart. So it's like this really kind of unique model of storytelling. But I used the character of Valerie Cherish as inspiration a lot, because there's a lot of similarities between this character that I wanted to create and Valerie, which is that they're just like completely self-serving, like only focused on fame and success and recognition at all costs. And they constantly are like met with challenges or cringeworthy scenarios, and seeing their reaction in those moments is kind of the type of comedy that I was trying to to portray. But I think The Comeback, HBO, would be the biggest like example of what we were trying to replicate. Also, there are elements of like Veep in there, and this like and a Selena Meyer's character who is like insufferable and like kind of like inappropriate and unlikable, but yet has some little redeeming quality, or at least you love to hate them and you like to watch them unravel, even though like they're not like a good person.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
And then there's definitely like Larry David isms and like Seinfeld like elements, where there's a lot of like little nuanced moments that are about nothing in particular, but they just like represent like bigger picture things, like whether it's like the interaction I have with the hot dog vendor just is like a standout moment, because it's just like a little moment that we chose to include because it just seems so random, and like it doesn't influence the story in any way, but yet it somehow like feels like character building or world building. And it just seems like one of those like silly New York interactions that people have had or could relate to. We wanted to include like some moments like that.
Okay. Cool. And
then really the biggest inspiration, if I'm being honest, to me is like Lucille Ball, and I Love Lucy, and that even though this is not like slapstick comedy, it's definitely like dry satire. There is a lot of physical comedy, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was inspiration that I drew from like watching and admiring I Love Lucy as a kid, and facial expressions and nonverbal reactions.
Okay. Hence her being on your list.
Yes, exactly. That was a real journal entry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Shit. Okay. So what you got against Kirstie Alley?
I don't have anything. I just can't imagine why I would have been such a fan of Kirstie Alley at a young age. Like I don't remember. I didn't really watch Cheers, and it was like Look Who's Talking. She's the one person on that list that like looking back, I can't remember why I would have been such a fan of hers or why I would have included her on that list.
Yeah, but those were the biggest things, really, wasn't it? I feel Cheers and Look Who's Talking, those were her biggest.
Yeah.
Like, she's done other stuff, but I think if you say Kirstie Alley, they're the things that you think of.
Right.
Yeah, so if you didn't watch, yeah, that is a weird addition.
Inexplicable, really. The one thing about the film that makes no sense.
Oh, but that's great. That's an actual journal entry.
Is it? Yeah. Is it great? I don't know, Kevin.
Yeah, no. But for
Yeah.
the film, right? Because it's just
exactly.
you know, when you're like improving and putting things in for laughs and all of this kind of stuff, like to have those actual moments of reality in it, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's kind of amusing. Okay. So yeah, no, all of those things really help this come together, and we do get just this thing that you don't want to turn away from. And I think that's one of the biggest things in TV and film right now, because like everyone's got their phone and stuff, and it's just you watch something and then you'll like be distracted. So anything that can hold your attention for that fixed amount of time, you've done something good. And I think this is one of those things.
That's a huge statement and a huge compliment, and I that means a lot, especially coming from a Brit, because I always felt as though there's something inherently like British about the comedy, because it is like quite dry, and I find that the British people I know, like I align more with their kind of sense of humor, which is very deadpan, like witty. So I always hope that this would resonate, and I'm really hopeful that we can figure out a way to make it available, at least in the UK, because right now it's only streamable in North America. So we've got to work on that. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah, it's always it's oftentimes a pain, because like you watch something and then people are like, oh, what if you watch anything good? I'm like, yo, you need to check out this thing, and then you realize no, they can't. Because it's not available at the moment. So
we'll get it there. We'll get it there.
Okay.
The other thing I think that I like love about the film is how like dense it is, how there are, and the takeaway from people like is so diverse. Like so many people are referencing and quoting these random obscure moments, and I'm so glad that like those things are not going unnoticed. And it's like it's all over the map. Like people are picking up on the smallest little things, which is so exciting, because like a lot of it was deliberate and intentional, and you never know if any of that is going to like resonate with people.
Yeah. No, because I think it is that thing of when you're creating a character that is somewhat dislikable but is compelling, you have to have all of these different moments that help highlight what it is. And so when you're going through, there are just all of these things, like the theater manager and being like, oh yeah, no problem, come back, and then be like, I hate that guy. And there's like the mic's still on.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just those kind of things that you just be like, oh yeah.
We like that moment, especially because it was like one of the few moments where you get to hear like someone else's point of view. And it's like the Greek chorus, like, oh, that's what the audience is thinking. So it's fun.
Yes. And it's one of them things of, like when you have those situations and you have to endure this person going on, and when they walk away, then it's just like,
exactly.
Would they ever shut up? And it's just like, so you know what those moments are, right?
It's relatable.
So, Yeah. So it's just, funny. And then you've got the bits where he's talking to the editor and he's just like, why did you make me look bad? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And you're just like, jeez, this guy.
Yeah, and he's just like, well, I didn't make you look bad. This is what you actually look like, Talk about projecting.
Yeah. But it's like, I forget the actress's her name, but she does a great job of, just giving that look of being like, oh my God, what am I gonna what do I do here? Feeling downtrodden and just being like, God damn it. I have to
I
work
wonder who. Yeah.
with it. And I mean, that's one of the big things as well. It's like the unspoken moments, right? As you say, it's the facial expressions, the body language, because it all helps really highlight everyone's feeling,
Yep.
even if they can't vocalize it to Sam.
Yes, and a lot of that was like little cutaway moments that we added in that again may not have happened like in that moment.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of that's like, the magic of movie making and editing. Yeah. You get to like create that sense with a shot.
Mm, mm. Yeah. How long did it take to put it together in the editing booth? Like, finding the real story in the story.
Oh, well, it took like about a year and a half from start to finish to really craft the whole thing and then get it to a point where it was ready to be like, color graded and sound mixed. And that took a few months to perfect. But yeah, no, it was a lengthy post-production process. And there were stages. We did like stage one, and then we went back and we shot a couple of additional moments that we added in.
Mm. Okay. And I guess to make this really work, you have to have a lot of buy-in from the community, right? To be able to show premises and
Mhm.
just all of that kind of things. How easy was that? Right, getting people to be like, yeah, you can shoot in front. Yes, you can use this and have this in the film.
Yeah, I will. Well, we're very, very fortunate because we shot this in the off season when it's kind of sleepy and quiet out here. And I work at a restaurant locally, so I have a lot of incredible connections within the community, great friends and people who were very, very willing to support and very generous with their time and their talent and location. So it wasn't very difficult. It was difficult to like decide what we needed, and kind of coordinate all the logistics. But permission wise, it was very, very like simple and yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
also, we knew that we wanted to showcase a lot of these businesses. Ultimately, we kind of pitched it to them like, oh, we're making like a really, really funny, really, really long commercial.
Yes.
Sag Harbor, you know? It's like a long tourism video because it's just like highlighting a lot of local businesses in the area. And we would be honored to include your brand or your business. And so yeah, that's why there's a lot of, local brands and businesses, and their signage is, prevalent. We wanted to highlight and celebrate those companies however we could.
Mm. I mean, that definitely makes sense for
Yeah.
an indie film. It's a way of, getting that buy-in by
Yeah, and
doing
it
that.
was a win-win because it really enhanced the production value for us, because we could never have afforded to, with our budget, pay for these locations or
Mm.
build these locations or, art direct these locations. So it's like it allowed us to film in such a wide, diverse, visually like, variety of spaces that make the whole film look and feel a lot more expensive and rich.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really love the moment where you go to the women in film uh thing. Like, was that always an element of the film? Like, how did you come
So
up with
that
that?
was What's interesting about that segment, it's one of the few like real examples of like, you know, movie magic, because that was filmed over the course of 2 years. It was the portion where I'm in the brunch interacting with the women was filmed in 2022 at the festival. And then the interviews with the people outside where you see the brunch in the background, that was filmed the following year at the same event. It's an annual event that they host, NIWIF, during the film festival. And because I've worked with the festival for so many years and I have, you know, these relationships, it was easy for me to get permission to go film there. And we just thought the notion of Sam going to network at like a women's film brunch was funny, you know. And like now he's trying to spin this film as like, you know, a female empowerment story somehow. Is like, just because it's like the only like exposure he could get during the festival is hilarious. Yeah, one of my favorite sequences. And there's so much great like unused footage, which has sort of been my next focus. Everyone's like, "Oh, what's your next project?" I'm like, "Well, we've got ideas for a series and a sequel, but I want to spend a lot of time like marketing this film, you know, and like using all of this incredible material and content that we have that's not in the film to help market it." So that's going to take a fair amount of like, you know, creative energy to edit and put together all of these little clips and things. But there's a lot of material that we're going to share that's really, really funny too.
Okay. I mean, it's something that I always think about, right? Because back in the day, you'd have your, you know, your video, your DVD, and you'd have the, you know, the version they put out straight away, and then you get the, you know, deluxe edition, and there'd be like the making of documentary, right? The other documentary looking at another aspect of it. You'd have the interviews, you'd have the commentary tracks, you'd have all of these interesting thing. I remember watching the frigging commentary track on Fight Club, and they were talking about how there's this crazy line that Helena Bonham Carter says, and they're like, well, there was the thing she was going to say, and the studio was just like, we don't like that line, take it out. And they're like, all right, we'll take it out, but just this, we won't do it again. And they're like, that's fine. And then they put in something that was so much worse, like so much, and you're just like, God damn, the person in the studio must be kicking themselves, because the thing they complained about was not that bad. So it's just interesting. And there's all these other interesting things. And so like we lose all of that stuff now because everything's just going on streaming, and you don't get those bonus features that much. Sometimes you do, but for the most part, we don't.
That's something we intend to incorporate somehow. I don't know if that's like a deluxe version that will be available in the future on Amazon and Apple, or perhaps if it becomes available on like a subscription-based platform like Paramount Plus, I would love to do a director's commentary, because I used to watch those religiously as a kid. All my favorite movies, I've watched the director's commentary, Scream included. I would love to do deleted scenes. We don't have many bloopers, but we can do a very, very substantial, you know, string out of deleted scenes and behind the scenes, like, you know, secrets spilled, like a lot of fun content for people.
Yeah, there was a film that came out a couple of months ago, I think it was. Yeah, I think 2 months ago, called Clone Cops. And the guys that did that, it's very funny. It kind of in the vein of Flash Gordon, if you ever saw that, with Brian Blessed and
no, but I'm familiar with the title, but I never saw it.
It's one of them things that I am so surprised they haven't turned into a stage musical. Really, I mean, like when they've done it on all these other things, these random, I'm surprised. But yeah, no, Clone Cops, they've got a load of, you know, behind the scenes stuff that they've kind of put on. They created a website and they've got it on their website.
Oh,
So
that's
there's fake documentaries and adverts and just all of these different things that they put. There's stuff on their website. There's I think, a phone line. They created this phone line that you can ring, and there's all these fun messages on it, right? They've got stuff on their YouTube channel. So they've kind of utilized those things to be able to do, you know,
that's
the
smart.
extra features, which is, yeah,
And
it's a lot of fun.
it's like you have to pay to access that material, or
No,
no?
it's all,
Okay,
yeah, it's all
all free.
free, which is, you know, again, not many people do, you know, but it's fun, you know.
Right.
There's sometimes like, what are you going to do with it? I think when you've got enough films, right, you can probably put stuff behind a paywall, right? You can create it. It's like Louis CK kind of did that, right? Put all these TV, because he held the license to all of his shows and stuff. He just licensed them out to HBO. So he
Yeah.
actually owns everything. So he then brought it back. And so it's on the website. So
Yeah.
you
But you
now
have to
pay
subscribe
to,
to see. Yeah.
which
It's a
is, you
smart
know,
model. Yeah.
yeah,
In today's
it
day
can
and age,
work.
you got to be, you know, crafty when it comes to figuring out how to monetize content, you know?
Mm, mm. Well, it's Tom Segura and Christina Pradinsky do it with Your Mum's House, right?
Hmm.
So they've got the podcast that's out, but then they've got a whole load of other stuff that, you know,
Like a Patreon or something. Yeah.
yeah, and they do like a live show that you can pay for and view, and just all of that stuff is on the website that, you know, you can subscribe to. So
Right.
you can get the podcast without adverts, right? You can get all that. They do a behind the scenes of all the different shows that are on their channel that you can then access each week. And so all of these different things that fans of their stuff don't mind paying, I don't know, $10 or whatever it is to
Right.
view, you know. So
Makes
if you've
sense.
got the stuff, right, if you've created compelling things, I think people don't actually mind paying a little bit of money to
To enjoy
access.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah, definitely could work. Yeah. So it's interesting that you're, yeah, looking to utilize all of this stuff, especially to help tell the story of what you've created.
Yeah. Not that it really helps to tell the story, because a lot of it is like, it doesn't necessarily connect to the plot of the film that we created, but it supports the story and it supports the character and the universe. So it's fun, but it's a little disconnected from the plot.
Well, yes, no, in telling the story, I
Yeah.
mean of you as creators, of you
Oh yeah.
creating this world. And, you know, it's just all of those building blocks, right? Because I
Exactly.
think that's at the heart of it. I think that's what people want. You know what I mean? Because you have these, sometimes you have big films and they've got big people in and they're terrible,
Yeah.
right? And they'll come out and on that opening day, they'll make money. But as the minute everyone realizes it's actually not that good, it just disappears, right?
Yeah.
But then you have these other films that don't have big stars, but the story is crazy. And everyone's just like, oh my God, that was so good, you know, so compelling, right? When you look at um things like Long Legs and The Monkey, you know what I mean? Crazy. Like you've
Yeah.
got the Adams family who keep on churning out incredible like horror films. Like you know, they've just launched Mother of Flies, right? They had Hellhole and just all these other things that are so good. And people just gravitate to them because the story is just compelling. And you know,
Yeah.
they don't have huge, you know, Brad Pitt's not in the films or anyone like, you know, there's no
Right.
George Clooney, but that, you know, that if it says Adam's Family, it's going to be good, right? And I think that's the thing. If you can create something compelling, people will find it and enjoy it.
I hope so. Yeah, that's really been like our philosophy as well. You know, if you build it, they will come, and we're just happy that it's finding, you know, an audience and people are enjoying it. That's all we really wanted to do, was create something that amused and entertained people. And also, especially, you know, comedy is so important, you know,
Mm.
nowadays, especially just to give people an hour and 46 minutes to like disconnect from reality a little bit and laugh at something that is not very deep or meaningful, but just absurd and silly. Um, we're really like grateful to have the opportunity to do that and share
Yeah,
that.
and I think you're not trying to shoehorn in some political message or anything like that. You know what I mean? You're just looking to be funny, looking to
Yeah,
make people smile. And
right.
that's what people want. They just want to laugh, they just want to smile, you know? And that's what
Amen
you
to
gave
that.
them. Mm. So other than a potential sequel in the film or TV, have you got other projects that you are, you know, mulling
Yeah.
about?
Yes. One very personal, like documentary project that I've been working on for many, many years that I would like to revisit. Um, but aside from that, nothing really like in development.
Okay. Okay.
I
So
really want to take the time, you know, to I wore so many hats on this film, you know,
yeah.
from the producing, the directing, the editing, the acting, now the like the publicist. So I really want to enjoy like what we've achieved with this film and see people react to it and stay like present and focused on enjoying this moment and like the fruits of our labor, so to speak, before I become too distracted with another
Mm,
project.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, to be honest though, Sam, you did have a publicist. You could have got Mona to do this, but
That's true.
you
But
chose not to. You know what I
Nona and I are not on speaking terms at the moment for obvious reasons. Yeah.
mean? I mean, I can kind of see why.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's good. Now, one thing that you mentioned at the very start, that some of this was a proof of concept for some promo for Scream 5. Did that?
Mhm.
What happened with that, by the way?
We pitched it to Paramount and they didn't go for it, so we just made
Ah.
it ourselves. Now, thankfully, they didn't like it, so we made it a film. And now Scream 7 is coming out, so we're hopeful
Mm.
that in February there's some opportunity to connect this film to that film in a fun way.
Yeah, yeah. No, it could happen. It's always
Yeah.
interesting though how some things can spin out
Yeah.
because the PlayStation was never meant to be a thing, right? Sony had created a disk drive for Nintendo, and they were like, "Nah, we're gonna stick with the cartridge." And so Sony were just like, "We put all this time and effort in. Let's just create something," and that's how the PS1 came to be.
Really?
Yeah.
They were, like, manufacturing it for Nintendo, and then
Yeah, it was
oh,
meant to
interesting.
be some sort it was meant to be a kind of like add-on thing, because I think Sega had brought out one for the Mega Drive, a kind of a disc add-on thing. And yeah, I think Nintendo had thought about it, got Sony to do something, and then in the end they were just like, "Nah, we think the cartridge is the way to go." And
That's interesting.
yeah, they created their yeah, big ass rival, which
Yeah,
was kind of
exactly.
amazing.
I
Uh,
wonder if Nintendo regrets that in retrospect.
I possibly, But you then wonder if the PlayStation hadn't have come about, would Nintendo have evolved into what they are now? You know what I mean? Because sometimes
a good little friendly competition is good.
yes, because we've seen when someone has a monopoly and there's no more competition, and then everything just plateaus. So sometimes that competition makes you go, right, how can we be better? What else can we do? So, you know,
all boats rise with the tide, as they say. Yeah.
indeed. Indeed. Well,
What
Sam,
time is it? Oh, it's like 7 or 8 o'clock in the UK.
it is just gone 6:30.
Nice.
Yeah. So not too bad. Not too bad. But yeah, no, this has been a lot of fun. It's interesting to hear about how the premiere came to be, because it is such an amusing piece. So
Thank
it's
you.
always interesting pulling back the curtain on these things. So yeah, thank you again for your
Well, I
time, Sam.
appreciate you, spending so much time and all the thought and energy that you put into this, and um, tell everyone you know that hopefully it'll be available in the UK soon, and tell all of your American and Canadian friends to get it in the meantime.
Yes, for sure, for sure. How can people keep track of, everything you're doing and the premiere? Let them
Yes,
know.
well, you can follow on Instagram at the Premiere Film, as well as my personal at I am Sam Pez, IAMSAMPEZZ, and we'll continue to share updates via social media, along with links as to where you can stream the film. Currently, it's on Amazon Prime and Apple TV in North America.
Awesome. Okie dokie. So yeah, so follow Sam and you'll be able to find out about the bonus features. You'll be able to find out about the potential sequel and what format that may be in, and then just what else is next from Sam and the crew. So make sure you do that, people. All the links will be on the website. So go follow and go watch the premiere, because hey, it's gonna make you chuckle, it's gonna make you smile, it's just straight enjoyable. You know what I mean? So have that in your life. Sam,
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Kevin.
hey man, when you've got the next things to talk about, please stop by for another conversation.
You got it. I'll see you
Awesome.
then.
All right, take it easy, man.
Bye.
Bye.